Hey, friends, welcome back to the Do Cool Shit podcast. It's me, Meryl. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most frequently experienced emotions: disappointment. I think it's funny, and not like funny ha ha, but funny that this is one of the most frequently experienced emotions. It is certainly I could see why. Can you? Because of what I do, this pops up really often. And it is an emotion that I have been digging into, and I want to break down and discuss. And when I talk about disappointment, I'm not talking about that surface level, oh, well, that didn't work out kind of disappointment. I am talking about that gut punch, chest tightening, makes you question everything kind of disappointment. The kind that shows up when you've been doing all the things, you've been putting in real effort. The reality just doesn't match up to what you expected. When someone you care about doesn't show up the way you needed them to or wanted them to, when your body doesn't respond on your timeline, when you realize you've been running towards something that was never actually yours to control. These are things that pop up so often, especially these days. A book that I have been reading on honestly, I'm a little bit nervous to tell you how long I've been reading this, but fuck it. I've been reading this book for probably 2 years because I get through 1 to 2 paragraphs and I read it multiple times, and then I stop because I do this before bed because this book is so freaking good and so interesting to me. And it is Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown, who I just love every single thing that she puts out because I am such a nerd in this realm. So this is going to help us as we go through the episode. And according to Brené, I'm going to call her by her first name, we're massively underestimating how much damage this emotion causes, not just to our progress, but to our relationships and our ability to keep showing up for ourselves. And the kicker here is that most of us are walking around with expectations that we don't even know about. We've never even examined them. Unconscious movies play in our heads about how things should go, what we should achieve, how people should respond all the freaking time. And when reality doesn't match that script that we've created, shit show, right? So again, today we're going to dig into why does disappointment hit so hard, what's actually driving it, how to set yourself up for less of it without lowering your standards or playing small. Because the answer isn't to stop caring, and it's not even to lower expectations, although that is one strategy. I'm going to talk about this through the lens of getting clear about what you actually want and why, and how to have the courage to put it out there. And as always, this is going to get uncomfortable. The cool shit happens when you stop holding back, right? So here's the deal about disappointment. The definition that I really like in, in this is that disappointment is unmet expectations. That's it. Pretty freaking simple here. The bigger the expectation, the bigger the disappointment. And here's what we don't talk about: we are setting expectations constantly, all the freaking time, whether you know it or not. Most of these expectations are unconscious, they're unexamined, they're unexpressed. And that is exactly why so much feels like it blows up in our faces. I'll start out with a strong example in my own story with my fitness journey. I used to have this expectation that if I just worked hard enough, if I showed up to every training session, if I did two-a-days, if I worked out more, if I followed a diet most of the time, if I did it all quote unquote right, that my body would just respond exactly how I wanted it to. Had this movie playing in my head where I'd wake up, I'd look in the mirror, I'd see visible abs, I'd look toned AF, and what I would look like would match that effort that I believed I was putting in. But when this didn't happen, I was devastated. I was not only disappointed, but I was angry at my body. I questioned everything that I was doing. I felt like a complete and utter failure. And I never examined why I wanted those things. I never examined whether that expectation was even realistic. Taking into consideration things like my genetics, my stress levels, my sleep, what my nutrition looked like as a whole, where I actually was at in my journey. And I've talked about this before, but a huge turning point for me here was when I actually hired someone else to support me in making changes, someone who could help in creating awareness around what was actually going on and what wasn't aligning with my expectations. This is a conversation that I have so often with my clients, which I'll get into later, where expectations, when there's not alignment, that's where shit hits the fan. Because sometimes you're just like too close and you're creating this movie, this script, and nobody else knows what's going on. So if you're someone who, and if you're listening to this, I'm going to bet that you will say yes to some of these things. If you're someone who takes on a lot, who operates with high expectations, who tends towards all or nothing thinking, then you're especially vulnerable to this. I'm going to guess that you experience disappointment frequently and in a very gut punching kind of way, because you're not just setting expectations, you're setting massive ones. And when they are unexamined, that crash is hard. It is hard, hard, hard. When we develop expectations, again, we paint this elaborate movie in our heads. We cast ourselves as the main character, the lead. We write the script. We imagine how everything will unfold. We write this beautiful story that we want, but we're often setting expectations and outcomes totally beyond our control. What other people think, how they'll react, whether they'll celebrate with us, whether our body will respond exactly how we want when we want it to, what the scale will say, how quickly progress will happen. And oftentimes we also don't talk about these things, and the other people in our lives don't have any idea of that they're maybe even in the movie, what they're supposed to do. They don't know their lines. They don't know what things even mean to you. And when the reality doesn't match that movie that we created, again, shit happens. There are unexamined and unexpressed expectations. And these are the big ones that I just talked about, and I'm going to give a couple examples in. These two things are huge, huge killers of progress and connection. For example, let's take someone who's working out consistently, following their nutrition plan. In their head, they've decided that their body is going to show visible results on their timeline. They've painted this whole picture of what they'll look like, how they'll feel, what changes will be obvious. But they never actually examined what consistent means to their body versus what it means in their head. They've never questioned whether their timeline accounts for actual physiology or stress or sleep or hormonal health, etc. They've never asked themselves, is this expectation within my control? And a lot of the times what we see is, 6 weeks in, things are going, plans are being followed exactly, and then these people are not where they thought they'd be. They're disappointed, maybe even ashamed, maybe even angry, and they feel like they're doing everything wrong then at that point. The reality is their body didn't let them down. Maybe they just didn't examine whether their expectations were realistic in the first place. Another example here, and I'll give you a couple personal ones here. I usually let's talk about jobs. I tend to find myself hoping that my next social media post is going to blow up. When it doesn't, I downplay a lot of my wins in business growth. I feel like a utter failure. I wonder if anything I'm doing is even worth it for the long. And honestly, that's unexamined expectations running the show. I'm expecting this external validation to tell me that I'm on the right track. I'm expecting a specific outcome from something that I can't actually control. And then when it doesn't, I'm living disappointed instead of examining what I actually needed and why. Another example when it comes to relationships, and this is one that happened very recently, was Josh and I had this courageous conversation where I had brought an expectation to him about spending time together. And I felt like there was this lack, and I had this kind of thought that he didn't want to spend time with me when in reality, he was coming from a standpoint where he was letting me have time to do my own things and not creating extra expectations because he thought that that would make me feel more stressed. So we were painting completely different pictures. And, neither of us were wrong. We just hadn't communicated our expectations. And when I expressed what I actually needed and asked him what he was thinking, then everything shifted. But until that conversation, I was sitting in disappointment thinking that he didn't care or he didn't want to spend time with me or, whatever other bullshit that was in my mind. And he had no idea. So, one really big thing that we can do here is to reality check ourselves. And there's questions, of course, that I'm going to throw out. So before really setting a goal or expectation, reality check what that is. What are your actual expectations here? What do you want to happen and why? What will achieving this mean to you? Do you have a movie playing in your head? And if you do, what is it? Get specific in it. And then you can explore that. Are you setting expectations that depend on things that are outside of your control or influence? Have you communicated any of this to people involved? Walk through what success actually looks like with specifics. Be specific, please. Please, please, please. This will solve most people's problems is getting specific. Not something like this is going to be great. But here's what I need. Here's why I need it. Here's what success means to me. Check against your values. I often talk about alignment. And if we're talking about a goal, then expectations need to align. Values are another thing that need to align. Effort is another thing that needs to align. But checking your values is going to be huge. So, what pulls me out of that business disappointment cycle that I can sometimes fall into is checking my expectations and making sure that there's alignment in what I'm doing. Checking against my values are something that I do as well. In like, hey, what truths are present here? What is actually going on for my clients in their journey and their progress? And then I can compare from where I've come from as well. I highly suggest doing this in aspects of your health and fitness and what your goals are as well. If you're not asking for what's important to you, this is hard, guys. Maybe it's because you don't think you're worth it. And that's some shit that we need to address, right? Speaking things out loud. And if you're not, then again, tends to lead to a lot of disappointment, anger, resentment is another big thing in here. So I'm going to repeat this because when I read this, punched me in the gut. If you're not asking for what's important to you, maybe it's because you don't think you're worth it. Woo! Okay, so the other types of expectations are examined and expressed expectations. So we have unexamined and unexpressed, and we have examined and expressed. These are realistic, they're clearly communicated, and they are self aware, meaning that you understand the why behind what you want. You are wanting to lose weight or lose fat, but there's a big why behind that. For example, like instead of silently hoping that Josh would read my mind about quality time, we had that courageous conversation. And I said, hey, I'm feeling really disconnected and I am really needing some more intentional time together. Can we do something tonight? Can we plan something this week? And then he shared what he was thinking. And then we created this shared picture instead of having two separate ones. That's examined and expressed. There's clarity. There's bravery in there for sure. You're opening the door for someone to meet you there or be honest about what they can offer. Now, the the unfortunate thing here is that even when you do everything right, even when you examine, you express, you communicate things beautifully, disappointment can still happen. And honestly, sometimes that hurts more because you've put yourself in this vulnerable position. You put yourself out there. You said what you really want. You were very clear about why it's so important to you. You maybe asked for what you needed. Maybe you told someone exactly what kind of support you needed during a cut or a fat loss phase and they didn't deliver. Like they still didn't deliver. Maybe you shared your goals with your family, asked them to help by changing, how they do things by like not offering food that doesn't align with your goals. And then they still do it. Maybe you opened up about how much your deadlift PR meant to you and someone was like, "Oh, well, that's cool. I know someone else who can deadlift more." That disappointment is so valid and sometimes there's shame attached to it. Shame for like maybe wanting too much or being too sensitive, for caring really deeply about something, for wanting something so bad and not having it happen. This is something that I had someone recently tell me about a job that they had applied for, that they were fairly certain that they would be at the top of that list for that job, and they got denied from that job. And, they had communicated this. They had said, like, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be a shoe in for this position. And then they didn't get the job. And there was some shame attached to that. And what really, really, really matters in this point is with communication and opportunity. When you communicate examined expectations, you create opportunity for real connection. So when disappointment in this area happens, you can have actual conversation about it and connection. Discuss feelings. Talk about accountability if someone else kind of lets you down. You can figure out things when you do this. Sometimes in this point, you just want to like run away and hide. And this is a place of opportunity for growth and real connection. So, the common advice when people keep getting disappointed is to lower their expectations. Stop caring so much. Don't get your hopes high. And I loved what Brene Brown said in the book, where she said, there are too many people in the world today who decide to live disappointed rather than risk feeling disappointed. And how true is that? What living disappointed looks like is numbing, not letting yourself get excited about progress because it probably won't last anyways. Quote unquote here. You're foreboding joy when something good actually, when something good happens, you're immediately waiting for the other shoe to drop. Being cynical or critical, that workout program won't work. There is no point in trying. Why bother? Never fully engaging, where you're half assing your efforts because you're protecting yourself from caring too much because you don't want that disappointment to hit so hard. This is living disappointed. It's protecting yourself from feeling disappointment by never fully engaging in what you're building. And that is bullshit. Listen, I am guilty of this as well. I think we all are. I see this with my clients constantly, or people that I talk to constantly. People who tend to be high achievers don't celebrate being consistent with training because they're waiting to see if they can maintain it. People downplay choosing a satiating meal over that moment of enjoyment because they haven't lost enough weight yet. They won't share their goals because someone might judge them or they might not achieve them. There's this story in the book where this man mentioned going through life with this thought that he was going to expect the worst. His philosophy was that if you expect the worst, you're either prepared for when it happens or you're pleasantly surprised when it doesn't. And hey, this sounds practical, right? But then there was a car accident and his wife was killed. And he realized that expecting the worst did not prepare him at all for that. And what's worse on top of that is that he spent time grieving all the moments that they shared because he didn't fully enjoy the moments that they had together because he was too busy protecting himself from potential disappointments. And he's moved forward into fully enjoying moments, fully being in things. because of this? How many moments are you not fully experiencing because you're afraid of being disappointed? It's not protection. That is not living. It is a slow death. It is disconnection from your own experience and from the people around you. So we're going to do this differently, right? You don't want that. That's not doing cool shit. That's not living. So we're going to examine expectations ruthlessly. Again, before you set a goal, before you expect something from yourself or someone else, dig into it. Why do you want this? What will it mean about me if I achieve it? What will it mean if I don't? Is this expectation within my control? Am I basing this on my own values or someone else's movie? Does this align with what's actually true about how progress works? Every single time that I pull myself out of disappointment cycles, I check my expectations against my values and against what's actually true and compare to where I've come from instead of some like imaginary finish line that I have created in my mind. We are going to express our expectations courageously. Stop assuming people can read your mind. Stop expecting your body, your coach, your training partner, your family, whoever to just know what you need or what you want. Say it out loud. I'm working towards this goal, and it would mean a lot to me if you celebrated with me when I hit it. I need intentional time together. Can we plan something? When I share my training wins with you, I'm looking for enthusiasm. I'm looking for celebration, not advice. Yeah, this is vulnerable. It is scary as shit. And it's also worth it because this is how you build real connection and actually get what you need. We are going to hold space for disappointment without living there. When disappointment happens, and it absolutely will, feel it. Don't numb it. Don't minimize it. Don't immediately jump to it's fine or I shouldn't care or whatever. You cared. It mattered. It hurts. That's so human of you. But don't just stay there. Don't set up camp. Have those conversations. Adjust expectations if needed. Learn what you need to do differently next time and keep moving. We are going to choose full engagement over self protection. Be excited about your deadlift PR, even if it's quote unquote just adding 5 pounds. Celebrate meal prepping for the week, even if you've done it before. Get hyped about your business growth, even if that post didn't go viral. I'm adding myself with this, saying this to myself. Share your goals, even if you might not hit them exactly as planned. Live fully engaged. Living fully engaged means risking disappointment. That is the assumption of risk that you are making. But it also means that you're experiencing actual joy, actual pride, actual connection. The bottom line here is that you didn't start this journey to play small. You didn't show up to hard workouts or build a business or, progress in your job, build a family, invest in yourself just to protect yourself from feeling things. Disappointment is part of the deal. The question is, are you going to let fear or disappointment keep you from being fully alive in your journey? Or are you going to examine, express, feel, keep showing up anyways? Because cool shit happens when you stop holding back. When you get clear about what you want, why you want it, when you ask for what you need, when you stay engaged, especially when it's uncomfortable, that's how you become unstoppable. not by avoiding disappointment, but by moving through it with your eyes open and your heart engaged. So get out there, do something worth being disappointed about, because the alternative is that you are living disappointed, and that is not living at all. That is not doing cool shit. So if this episode hit home, send it to someone who you think may need to hear it, share, like it, leave a comment, examine this in your own life, please, please, please. As always, cool shit is on the other side of doing. And if you want to chat about how you are using this, I would absolutely freaking love to hear it. Until next time, go do the cool shit.